Let me ask you, Anjali, how's tricks?
How is what? Sorry, I didn't get that.
I'm testing you. I'm saying,
Okay.
how's tricks? You know what that expression means? How's tricks?
Nope.
No. Okay. Nobody else knew that one as well. So if I say how's tricks, I mean, how are you? How are things? Just a general informal inquiry as to how you're doing. So how's tricks?
I think in every class we are learning different ways of asking how are you. In the last class we learned, I think in the last to last class we learned how are you faring. It was for how are you, and today how is your tricks?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. We just say how's tricks. How? Yeah. Or how
is tricks?
You would rarely say how is tricks. You just say how's tricks. How's tricks. So it's just purely colloquial. It's very common though. Much more common than how are you faring. I would say how are you faring. If I say how are you faring, there's almost an unsaid implication there that you've not been great, you've not been feeling well. Right. So how do you do is informal. It is, well, how do you do is kind of more formal, to be honest with you. How do you do is a greeting. How do you do? I'm not really asking how you're doing. It's just an informal greeting. It's a formal greeting. How do you do? Right? It's rhetorical. I'm not really expecting an answer. But if I say, how are you faring? It's not rhetorical. I'm kind of making a deliberate inquiry. Yeah. And if I say, how's tricks? That's super informal. And I'm just saying, how are you doing? How are you doing? But I'm expecting an answer.
And how to answer this question? Am I fine? I'm fine.
Yeah. Great. Fine. Good. Fabulous. Okay. Living the dream. Living the dream.
Okay.
Did we do living the dream before? I think we did. Who can tell me?
That.
Well, yeah, we did it. So tell us what it means. What does it mean to be living the dream?
Living the dream means something. I mean, living a very ideal life, the life that you idealize.
Correct. But when I say it, am I being sincere or am I being insincere?
Maybe sarcastic also.
Sarcastic, yeah, correct. Usually people say living the dream, but they're not really living the dream. They wish they were living a dream, but they're not living the dream. But they say that, yeah. I'm living a dream, but they're not really. Because very few of us really live the dream, right? So it's usually sarcastic. Okay, so that's house tricks and just a wee recap on other things. So Elham asked me this question just before I put the recording on, which is, what is the difference between want, need, request, and demand? Okay, want, need, request, and demand. Now, I'll just explain this. If I want something, it means I have a desire for it, right? I am parched. I want a glass of water. I am tired. I want to sleep. I want to snooze. I want a better car. I want a faster car. I want a better house, a bigger house. I want a good education. I want to go to university, etc., etc. So want expresses desire. Okay. Need expresses is different. Is where it's a necessity. So you can want something whether it's a need or not, but need is an absolute necessity. So I need food. I need to eat. I haven't eaten all day. I need to eat. Yeah, so that's what need is. Everybody needs to drink water. You can't survive without drinking water. Everybody needs some sunshine because you get your vitamin D from sunshine on your face. So that's need. So before we go any further, is it clear? And does everyone see the distinction between want and need? Yeah, got a thumbs up there. Okay, thank you. So then request. Request is where I'm asking for something. You see, I can request you to do something for next week. If I do that, it's kind of a formal way of asking you to do something. If I was staying in a hotel, I could phone up room service and request a cup of tea, or I could request a meal. So to request is like an ask, but it's slightly formal. And when you request, you're asking somebody else to do something for you, if that makes sense. So I request, I'm learning some Farsi. I speak to Mona and make a request of her to help me out. Could she give me half an hour over the next couple of weeks to practice? I make that request. But if I was speaking to Mona, I wouldn't say the word request to her. I would just ask, could you help me? Do you mind if I ask, could you help me? I wouldn't say the word request person to person. It would always be speaking about the situation when you would use the word request. Okay, so request is a formal way of asking somebody else to do something for you. Now, demand is a very strong word. Request is there. A request, there is no onus, right? There is no onus on the other party to answer that request. They can help me or not. It's their choice. That's their prerogative. But when we say demand, we are insisting, right? We are insisting. And if you demand, that could be because it's your right, you have the authority to demand. So for example, my boss demanded that I get that report in by Friday. So my boss is over me in the hierarchy of the company, and so that's their prerogative to demand, right? To demand. Somebody could demand something because they feel it's their right, whether it is or not, but they feel it's their right. So for example, if you think about the whole civil rights movement, let's go back in history and not make it too current and political, but you go back to the 60s, Martin Luther King and others were demanding of the American people that they be treated as equals. Now, they were demanding because they felt that was their right. So people would say, well, they don't have the authority to demand, but they felt it was their right. And so they demanded to be treated equally. And that eventually, changed the society in America. So that is want, need, request, and demand. Quickly. Now, let me just ask, does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, and there's one more word in the same milieu. It's order. So which is more strong? I mean, demand or order?
That's a good question. So what Anjali just said was there's another word in the same milia. Did you hear that? Did you pick that up? In the same milia, which is very good use of a word we've done in the past. And you're right. So order and demand are very similar. Demand, the difference, I would say they're about equal in terms of power and strength. But demand in general is asking something for yourself. I demand something for me, you know. Order, so I'm gonna move this one back to after demand, because if I go back to the hotel example and I want to phone room service, I could phone room service and order some food. And that would be regarded as being polite. I wouldn't demand some food. But if they hadn't turned up after an hour, I might phone and demand I get served immediately because I'm absolutely starving, right? So I'm being more insistent with demand than with order. So to order something, when you use Amazon and get a package to arrive, I am ordering something. I'm not demanding, I'm ordering something. Order, there's more than one sort of sense of order, right? I can order order some food, I can order a carry out. I can go to the shop and I can order a bicycle. They didn't have one in stock, so they ordered it, right? So it would come. And that's different from order in the sense of the military, where you're under orders and you have to obey orders, right? And orders in that sense is like demand, you know, in that orders have to be obeyed, right? And that's a common expression in English. Orders must be obeyed. And in fact, there's an interesting word called insubordination, which is where somebody is not obeying an order. So if I didn't obey the order of my superior, I could be court-martialed, which is like a court, and I'd be judged for it because I didn't obey an order. So in the military, you have to obey an order. You can't decide, well, I'm not going to obey that order because I don't agree with it, or I don't think it's very wise. You know, basically in the military, if I don't agree with an order, I don't have a choice. I have to obey orders, right? And there are people, though, that disobey orders on principle. So somebody gets told to go and kill someone or kill a number of people, they might decide that they're not doing that under any circumstances, and they will freely take whatever judgment comes their way as a result of that. So that's insubordination. Okay, so is everyone clear on that set of 5 words? Want, need, request, order, and demand. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. And let me stop and just welcome Sudhanshu and Fabiola have arrived since we started. Welcome, guys.
Hi, teacher.
Hiya. Okay, so a quick recap. The one thing you guys missed is house tricks. House tricks. So if I say to you, Fabiola, house tricks, you won't know what it means. So I'm going to just tell you. And Sudhanshu, it means it's another way. Pardon?
I don't know.
I know.
Meaning.
I know you don't. It means, how are you doing? How's it going? It's as simple as that. It's another way of saying it's very common. House tricks. It's quite informal. You would only say it to a friend or to a family member. You wouldn't say it to somebody you didn't know who they were. it indicates a sort of familiarity with the other person. And it's a direct question. It's not just hi. It's not like the Americans say, what's up? What's up? What's up? They always say that, right? It's a bit like that. But how's tricks is actually saying, if I said, how's tricks, Fabiola? I'm kind of going to pause and wait for you to answer. Where if somebody says, what's up, as the Americans do, they're not expecting you to answer. Everyone?
Okay, I understand.
Right, good. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is, we've done a few words there. I'm going to flip into some grammar now. We're going to do some grammar. And this is a wee bit more advanced grammar than we've done in the past. So this is something called the past perfect, the past perfect. And I'm pretty sure we haven't done this before. Do you know how to use phrases like they'd finished the project by March? Or had you finished work when I called? And hidden in they'd, that's short for they had. Okay. If we say they'd finished the project, we mean they had finished the project, but we don't. If we're speaking, we use the shortened form, we say they'd. So if somebody said to me tonight, how did your class go, Alan? I could say it was good. They had all turned up and were keen to go. And if I say they'd, I mean they had. Speaking of you all as a group, they had. And what this has got to do with is time. So finished is the past participle. Okay, so I could finish something, or I could say it's finished. If I say finished with the ed, it's the past participle. And so this grammar exercise is going to use had with the past participle. Okay, so here it's had you finished work when I called. So it's looking back at a point in time, and the point in time is indicated by finished work. And so what it's asking is, up until that point, at that point in time, had you finished work? Or maybe a better way to say it is, the point in time was I called, and when I called, I wanted to know had you finished work. Now, if this isn't 100% clear just now, that's fine. It's just a start of the exercise. By the end of the exercise, I think it should all gel and be clear, and I'll answer any questions at that point. But we'll do a few of the exercises. We'll read the explanation, and then hopefully it will be fairly clear. So here's some more examples of the past perfect, right? This is it here, right? Examples are, he couldn't make a sandwich because he'd forgotten to buy bread. Okay, so the past participle is forgotten. Okay, we don't say forgotten, we say forgotten, right? So that's the past participle of forget, is forgotten. And he'd is he had, you see? So he couldn't make a sandwich because he had forgotten to buy bread. Okay, so he had forgotten and he had forgotten, right? The hotel was full, so I was glad that we'd booked in advance. We'd is short for we had booked in advance. Okay, my new job wasn't exactly what I'd expected, meaning my new job wasn't exactly what I had expected. See how I'm looking back at a period of time here with this exercise. Now, what I'll do is we'll do this test together, this grammar test, and then we'll read the explanation. So let's do this together. When she something on the course, she had never studied a foreign language before. So the answer is either enrolled or she'd enrolled. Which of these two is it?
The second one, when she enrolled on the course.
Enrolled.
No, the first one. Enrolled.
Okay, I'm
Enroll.
getting more votes for the enrolled, and that is actually the correct answer here. It's not when she had enrolled on the course. It's when she enrolled in the course. At that point in time, she had never studied a foreign language, right? So that's correct. When I closed the door, I realized that my keys inside.
I left my keys inside.
I had left.
I left.
Okay, again, I'm getting more votes for the second one here, Sudanse. I'm sorry you're getting outvoted by all these women. I'm sorry. And who am I to disagree with them all, right? So it's I left, right? When I closed the door, bang, I realized I had left my keys inside, right? It's not I left my keys inside. I mean, people will understand what you meant, but that's not actually good grammar. The good grammar is I had left my keys inside, right? She looked really sad, but I didn't know what either happened or had happened.
Had happened.
Happened. No.
I give up.
I don't enjoy grammar either, Chidansu. The women are good at it. I'll tell you. It's something to do with that X chromosome or Y, double X chromosomes that they've got. Yeah, so I think we're going for, I didn't know what had happened. So I'll pick on someone.
Teacher, the pronunciation is what happened.
What had happened? Yeah, what had. Because if it wasn't the precisely, I would say it was what happened. I didn't know what happened, but that's not what we're saying. It's the full sentence is, I didn't know what had happened to make Fabiola look sad. There was something that made her sad. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what had happened. But if we were writing this down and I was writing a report, I would say Fabiola looked really sad, but I didn't know what had happened. I would say what had happened. But when I'm speaking, we always shorten it when speaking and say what had happened. What had. So what had, right, is short for, let me write it in a different screen so it's a bit clearer. What had happened, right, goes to what had happened. Technically, that's the same English. And so you would only write it like this if you were quoting somebody. Alan said he didn't know what had happened.
Okay, teacher, thank you.
Make sense? Because that's what you say. And when you put something in quotes, you're quoting verbatim what somebody would say. So either of these two sentences before you rang the doorbell, did Sai really leave when you rang the doorbell, or had Sai already left when you rang the doorbell?
Had Sai already left when you rang the doorbell?
Second one.
Very good, Siddhansu. I think you might have got that right, young man.
I buckled up, sir.
We just gave him a chance, actually.
Whoa! Oh, there she's sticking the knife in, Siddhansu, and then she's squeezing
No,
it.
that in our
She's
dreams.
turning it.
in our
Oh,
dreams.
nasty, nasty, nasty. True character coming out. Okay. This is the oldest building in the town. It something over 200 years ago. Either it was built or it had been built.
Was built.
Such confidence. Well, I think you're right, but we'll check the answers in a moment. By the time I moved in, they something the building work.
They finished.
No,
The
I'm
second
afraid-
one.
Yeah, I'm afraid not. It's the second one. By the time I moved in, they had finished. You see, it's that point in time thing with the past participle. Finished. They had finished it. By that point in time, they had. So you're going back to a point in time when I moved in. And then you're talking about a completed action that was completed by that point. I opened the door and something inside.
They went and went.
When
Yes, I went inside. I opened the door and went inside. 8. I looked in the letterbox yesterday and the letter still didn't arrive or hadn't arrived.
hadn't.
It didn't arrive.
No, I think it's hadn't arrived. Right, so let's see the answers. Okay, so we got 8 out of 8. Well done, everyone.
Woohoo!
Is everyone fairly comfortable with those answers? This
sir.
test is not exactly easy, right? It's not exactly easy. But what we'll do is we'll read the explanation now, which will give us more background, and then we'll try the second grammar test. So here's the explanation. Time up to a point in the past. We use the past perfect simple, had plus the past participle, to talk about a time up to a certain point in the past. Some examples. She'd published, i.e. she had published her first poem by the time she was 8. We'd finished, that is, we had finished all the water before we were halfway up the mountain. Had, written out fully, and arrived is the two coming together here. Had the parcel arrived when you called yesterday? So the point in time is when you called, and you're asking about something prior to that. Had the parcel arrived? Past perfect for the earlier of two past actions. This is getting interesting. We can use the past perfect to show the order of two past events. The past perfect shows the earlier action, and the past simple shows the later action. When the police arrived, the thief had escaped. So the past perfect we just read shows the earlier action, see? The past perfect shows the earlier action. So that was the thief had escaped. That's the past action. And then the later action is when the police arrived. So when the police arrived, the thief had escaped. Now this next bit is an interesting point. It doesn't matter in which order we say the two events. The following sentence has the same meaning. The thief had escaped when the police arrived. You see that semantically, from a meaning point of view, it's the same thing, right? The point in time is the police arriving, and then we're describing something that happened before that. The thief escaped. So, and it doesn't matter whether we say it like this afterwards or before, because we're putting the had with the past participle. Note, this is another really interesting point. I didn't know any of this, by the way. I mean, this is all second nature to a native speaker, right? But we don't know how to say it in words. We would never, unless I read this on this grammar site, I couldn't have told you this. So this is all an education for me as well. Note that if there's only a single event, we don't use the past perfect, even if it happened a long time ago. So the example they cite is, the Romans spoke Latin. Indeed they did, and we often talk about that, right? But we don't say the Romans had spoke Latin, right? But what I could say is the lingua franca of the ancient world was Greek up until the time of the Romans, and after that, the lingua franca was Latin. Past perfect with before. We can also use the past perfect followed by before. I think this is incorrect, right? I think before can come before it, actually. But anyway, I don't think the explanation is right, but the point still stands. We can use the past, let's read it like this. We can also use the past perfect with before rather than followed by to show that an action was not done or was incomplete when the past simple action happened. So, example, they left before I'd spoken to them. So the past participle is this, I'd spoken. Now you see the before here, the before is not following, it's coming before is before, right? So they'd left before I'd spoken to them. They left before I'd spoken to them. Sadly, the author died before he had finished the series. So the author died before he had finished the series. Actually, you see, I can see that in the title that they said it right. It's the past perfect with before, right? So the word before there is kind of time boxing. He'd finished the series. So he'd finished the series, is describing something. And before he'd finished it, saying it means that it's incomplete. Because if it didn't say before, if you just say he'd finished the series, that describes completion, right? He had finished the series. That describes the complete acts. But if I say before he'd finished the series, I'm saying it's not complete then. If it didn't say before in the first sentence, if it just said I'd spoken to them, that's a complete action in the past. I'd spoken to them. But if they left before I'd spoken to them, It means it's incomplete, right? I never ended up speaking to them. Is everyone reasonably comfortable with that? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So adverbs. We often use the adverbs already equals before the specified time. Still, as previously, just a very short time before the specified time. Ever equals any time before the specified time, or never at no time before the specified time with the past perfect. Wow, what a mouthful that is. Hopefully it'll be a bit more clear when you see the examples. So let's look at the first one already. I called his office, but he'd already left. Right, so I called his office. That was the point in time, was when I made the call, but he had, it's the past participle, already left. So in other words, before the point in time. So the next one uses still. That means as previously, right? It still hadn't rained at the beginning of May. Well, it's obviously not Scotland. This might apply in Iran or India, but it wouldn't happen in Scotland. It's by the beginning of May, so that's the point in time is the beginning of May, the 1st of May. It still hadn't rained. So hadn't is the past participle here. It had not, or sorry, rained is the past participle. And there's had with it, had not, and still. So in other words, it's saying that's equivalent to saying previously. So could I say the word previously here? You could, but it would be a mouthful and it would not sound very nice. But I could say previous to the 1st of May, it had not rained. Right, that's quite clumsy. But it puts strong emphasis on it when we say it still hadn't rained at the beginning of May. Right, this third one uses the word just. I went to visit her when she had just moved to Berlin. So the past participle here is she had, that's the had there, and the past participle is moved, okay? So I went to, let's take just out for a moment and say, what would it mean if it didn't have that there? And then how does just modify it? I went to visit her when she moved to Berlin. Okay, so she moved to Berlin and then I went to visit her. But because it says just, that's indicative that it's a short time. See this? A very short time before the specified time. So I went to visit her when she just moved to Berlin. So literally she just moved there. I went there the next week. It wasn't months after, it wasn't a year after, it was just within days because I used that word just there. So this example adds the modifier ever, okay? It was the most beautiful photo I'd ever seen. Now, if you take ever out, I like to take words out first of all, and then you understand how it modifies it. What does it mean if we don't have the word ever? It would say this. It was the most beautiful photo I'd seen. Okay, it's the most beautiful photo I'd seen. But if what I say is the most beautiful photo I'd ever seen, it puts tremendous emphasis on it, right? At any time before the specified time, right? So literally, it's the most beautiful photo I've ever seen in my entire life, right? Now, of course, that statement is almost certainly exaggeration because people don't remember every photo they've ever seen, right? And we'll have all seen some beautiful photos at some time in our life. So Mona, I can't remember when you sent me that message, Mona. Mona is asking me, can you explain the difference between yet and still? Yes, I will. Let me finish this wee section first, and then we'll come back to it. Had you ever visited London when you moved there? So this is really asking, had you ever visited London before you moved there, right? And that's how we would say it. We wouldn't say it like this. We would say it before you'd moved there. But the key point is you got the had with the past participle, and then you've got the modifier ever. So if we take ever out for a moment, it's like saying, had you visited London when you moved there? I don't like this example, right? Because we would never say it like that. We wouldn't say when. We would say before, because it's far clearer if you say before. Had you ever visited London before? Had you ever visited London kind of makes it mean that, but it's a bit clumsy. I don't like that example. And so here's one with never. Never means at no time before the specified time. Example, I'd never met anyone from California before I met Jim. So I'd, there's where you got the had, I had met. Met is the past participle. I met in the past. And so this is saying I'd never met. And that means at no time before the specified time. So when this person, the speaker, is describing the point in time meeting Jim, let's assume it's a female. This female says, I'd never met anyone from California before. Now, so Mona's asked the question. So let's come to Mona's question, and then we'll see if there's any other questions here, and then we'll go to the second grammar test. Mona says, teacher, could you explain the difference between yet and still? So still was used here. I'm busy, Mom. I'm in a meeting. I can't speak just now. I'm on a meeting. Everybody can hear you. Sorry, that was my mom interrupting me there, folks. It still means what is it? It still is I don't know. It's hard to explain what still means. If we take still out, right? And say it hadn't rained at the beginning of May. When we say still there, it's putting more emphasis on that. It's not really changing the sense of it. So as you can see, there's different meanings to the word still, right? I mean, you make whiskey in a still, right? As an adjective, the word means not moving or making a sound. The still body of the young man. Or I came across this quiet water and it was very still. Right? It wasn't moving. As a noun, deep silence and calm, stillness, the still of the night. We also use it in the sense of photography, still as opposed to movies. So movies are moving pictures and stills are static photographs, right? And then this is the sense in which we're talking about it here as an adverb. Up to including the present time or the time mentioned, even now and then as formerly, he still lives with his mother. So if you say he lives with his mother, right, that makes sense. If you say he still lives with his mother, that's putting great emphasis on the fact that it might be surprising that he still lives with his mother. He's lived with his mother up until this point in time. So that's still. And another definition here is nevertheless all the same. I'm afraid he's crazy, still he's harmless. Right? That's a different sense of the word. This is the sense in which we're using it in this sentence here. Up to including the present time, still. Now, if we come to yet, up until the present or a specified or implied time by now and then, I haven't told anyone else yet. So yet here means up until the present.
Teacher,
Yes.
excuse me, here we can tell that I still haven't told anyone else.
I could say that. Very good. Very astute, Mona.
Thank you.
Yeah. So it depends how you want to phrase it. I haven't told anyone else yet. Or I still haven't told anyone else are identical in meaning. Correct.
Okay.
So still, even, used to emphasize snow, so snow, and yet more snow. Or you could say, and still more snow. Yeah. Yeah, so you put the still in here between I and I haven't, and yet would go in the end. I'm pretty sure yet always goes at the end of a sentence. I don't know how you can use it in the middle of a sentence. Yet can also be used as a conjunction here, but at the same time, but nevertheless, the path was dark, yet I slowly find my way. Now, you could say still there as well. The path was dark, still, I slowly find my way. So it's acting almost as a kind of a pivot there, you know?
Okay.
So that was a really difficult question for teacher. Okay, right. So coming back to here, is everyone fairly comfortable with these examples we've gone through and the articulation of this grammar associated with the past participle? If the answer is yes, we're going to go and do another test. If not, I'll try and answer your questions. I'm getting the thumbs up from Anjali, so let's move on to the next test. By the time I could talk to her, she something to quit her job.
She had decided.
I looked at the photo and suddenly realized that the man somewhere before.
I'd seen.
Let's see.
First I something the salad, then I toasted the bread.
Made.
I had made. First I had made.
I'm going to go with Mona on this one, Anjali.
Okay.
Did James already cook breakfast when you got up? Or had James already cooked breakfast when you got up?
Had James already.
She didn't feel like another coffee as she something won.
She had just had one.
It just had.
We had the French exam in the morning. It's something as hard as I had expected, though wasn't. I asked Sarah if she wanted to go for a walk, but she still something her homework.
Hadn't finished.
Hadn't.
Dinosaurs, hundreds of millions of years ago.
Had lived.
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 Outvoted Sudan man. Okay, so let's see. We've got them all right, boys and girls. Well done. So is everybody comfortable with all of those? Can you see how this one here, I made the salad. It's not I had made the salad, then I toasted the bread. First I made the salad, it's a sequence. I made the salad and then I toasted the bread. It's a sequence.
Both are in the same tense here. I mean, past, simple past tense.
Yeah. Okay, so I think these are just questions and answers on that. So I think that was quite good fun. That was a good exercise. That was a stretch for you guys. And it was a stretch for teacher as well. So we've done the past perfect. So maybe next time we'll do another grammar exercise like that. Maybe the one after that. There's quite a lot here on this website, as you can see. So we did the past perfect, but we could do, some of these other ones. Lots of them. Okay. I didn't do much vocabulary this time. I'll do a couple of words. and then we'll finish up. So here's a really good word, periphrasis. Has anyone heard this word before? Give me a thumbs up
So
if you've known this
I
word.
have heard that of phrase, but not this.
Right,
Looks similar.
yeah. So periphrasis is the use of more words to say something than are necessary. An example of periphrasis is someone saying they believe they're able to attend the event rather than saying, yes, I'll be there. That's a great example. I believe that I'm able to attend the event. So it sounds like something like a politician would say, rather than just say, yeah, I'll be there, right? So that's an example of periphrasis.
It's just because their vocabulary is very strong. That's why, I guess.
It's not, no, it's not necessarily a positive thing. I mean, it can be used for effect, but it's not necessarily seen as a good thing. Right? Indirect circumlocutory phrase, rather pompous periphrasis. So I think it needs to be done with intelligence, you know, is this required? I want to, rather than speaking like that all the time is not a good idea. And so a related word is periphrastic. Periphrastic. Periphrastic.
Periphrastic.
Periphrastic. Indirect or circumlocutory. So if you go to the question that Elam always wonders is, how common is this word? And I would say not very common. Okay, not very common. Right, here's a good word. What does this word mean? Straightjacket. Now, first of all, as a noun, and then how it's applied. So what is a straightjacket? No one know?
Also,
Okay, well, it's a device used, and not in modern times, but in old times it was used for binding up criminals, to restrain them. They would put you in a straitjacket. So you know the way they handcuff criminals, right? When you get arrested, they handcuff them with their hands behind their back, usually, because you can't really do anything when your hands are tied behind your back. You can't threaten anybody. You can't do anything. You get moved around very easily. So police forces would put people's hands in handcuffs. Well, a straitjacket's a bit like that, but much more severe in that
Sorry, sir, to interrupt.
What it would do is it would be a jacket that they'd put on you, and it would hold your arms completely tight behind your body. You can't really move anywhere in it. That's what a straitjacket is, okay? A strong garment with long sleeves which can be tied together to confine the arms of a violent prisoner or mental patient. That's what a straitjacket is, okay? Now, although that's the basic meaning of that, this is not how it's used in 99% of the time. We would use this idiomatically to say something like this: oh, they'll put a straitjacket on you. Meaning they will constrain you. You won't have a voice. Countable noun. If you describe an idea or situation as a straitjacket, you mean it is very limiting or restricting. The national curriculum must be a guide, not a straitjacket. The ideological straitjacket of religious fundamentalism. See that, how it's being used here? I won't mention any countries by name here, but there are certain countries in the world whereby if you live in those countries, you'll feel that you're living life with a straitjacket on. You have no freedom. You have no freedom of self-expression because they constrain people like that. And that disapproval will be noted and it will be rewarded by a series of things up to prison, right? There's a large number of societies in the world that are like that. And if you come from a westernized country where it's not like that, that would be particularly confining. So that's what a straitjacket is. That's a good word, good expression to understand. Everybody got that? Here's another good word. I think we might have done in the past, not sure. Propensity. You know that word, propensity?
No, sir.
So a propensity to do something or propensity for something is a natural tendency that you have to behave in a particular way. So Mr. Bint has a propensity to put off decisions to the last minute. Right? So it's an inclination, a tendency. She hasn't reckoned on his propensity for violence. Somebody who turns to violence easily if he doesn't get his way. He's a propensity for it, right? Best in avoiding that kind of person. This is probably a pronunciation, I think.
Propensity. Propensity.
That's a good word to know. Propensity, fairly common, used in America and in Britain. Propensity. Now, the next expression I've got on my list is one I'm sure I've done. Does anyone remember what it means? Early doors? No?
So we have discussed that in the group.
I know we did. What does it mean?
I forgot it.
This is the reason we'll go over some stuff again. I knew you have to go over stuff, right? Otherwise, you just forget it, right? And so this is a good one to know, right? So when class started today.
Early hours, maybe something similar to that.
No.
Okay.
You're sort of getting there, but it's not right. When class started today, Elham and Mona were here early doors.
Earlier I was.
Yeah, it was earlier than you, right? So they were there early doors, meaning they were there at the beginning. It's almost like when they were at the shops when the shops opened, early doors. The sales are starting tomorrow, and Elham is a crazy shopper, so she was there early doors. So think of it like that. Think of the doors and doors of shops to help you remember what it means. But it doesn't have to be anything to do with shopping. It can be at something, you know, physical event or virtual event, doesn't matter. But the person who's there right at the beginning, early door, they're there early doors.
So can it be used like the people who actually leave early too?
No,
No.
we call them slackers.
Like us.
So interesting. So this is British, right? British informal, especially sport, meaning at an early stage. Interesting. I didn't know it was especially sport, right? I didn't know that. I would never use it to do with sport, but then I'm not really into sport. There were a couple, so here's how it's used, right? Some examples from the newspapers. There were a couple of boos from the fans early doors, but nothing major. So meaning some of the fans were booing at an early stage. You do well to grasp this early doors, meaning get it. It's still early doors, but only 9 or 10 games played. He loaned his weight to the campaign early doors. So i.e. early in the campaign, he did it. So, you know, that could be to do with politics, right? Nothing to do with sport. One of the board early doors and everything will flow. One on the board early doors and everything will flow. I don't really know what that means. I check what deals have been pushed through early doors. So in other words, what deals have been done quickly. It's a tight league and it's early doors. I didn't mean to jump the league there, sorry. I did a lot of dreaming early doors, right? Early on. So early doors means at an early stage. And you need to have it explained to you, otherwise you'd never get it, because what does it mean? Early doors. It doesn't, there isn't a natural, obvious meaning to that unless you know what it means. Okay. So I think I'm going to call it there, boys and girls.
Yes, so let's call it a day.
I'm just marking up the words we've done. We didn't do many words today, but we did some grammar. I will stop the share. And thank you all for coming. And as you see, it's gone dark in the short time we've been online. So it was light outside at the start, and now it's dark. I'm glad to put the light on. And I wish you all a happy weekend.
Thank you.
When it comes.
Same to you. Enjoy your weekend. Do we have a class on Sunday?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, teacher.
Yeah,
Thank
but
you so much for your time.
yeah, it will be 6 o'clock though, right? So 6 o'clock on Sunday for those who can
Thank
make
you,
it.
sir.
All right. See y'all. Bye.
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 Thank you.
Bye.